All right, um, so we're gonna be learning CGD 190 Adobe InDesign. So if you're not familiar, Adobe InDesign is used for creating, designing publications. So anything for print or um, online brochures or things with multiple pages, you're gonna use Adobe InDesign. So think if you use Photoshop for editing photos, um, you might edit some photos and then you might create a logo or design some graphics in Adobe Illustrator. But InDesign is where you put it all together and export it and um, get it ready for print or export a PDF. So it's for putting all the stuff together. Um, and there's a lot of text tools in there. So think of it like kind of like Photoshop. I mean, not Photoshop, Microsoft Word, but for designers. Um, so of course, class starts at 6:30. Usually wait a few minutes for everyone to show up before I start taking attendance. Um, but we meet Monday through Thursday. Of course, Monday was a holiday, so we didn't meet this Monday. Um, I gotta double check this actually. I think it might be Monday through Friday because we usually have 2 lab days, and I'll double check that actually. You guys might have got the schedule sent to you, so it's gonna be whatever was sent to you. This is I'm reusing the same syllabus I've been reusing, so some of the dates and times might be off. But the grading policy, that's gonna be consistent. Um, so it's typical grading policy that you see in the US where 90 to 100% is an A, 80 to 89 is a B, 70 to 79 is a C, and those are all passing grades. Everything below that, you don't want to get. Okay, so attendance is gonna be um, about 10% of your grade. Also, it's mandatory, so you can't miss more than 20% of the class. I think we're only 4 weeks, so that's not too many absences. Um, if you're late 15 minutes or more, that's considered tardy, so you'll get partial uh, attendance credit. Who's that? Well, if anyone new came in, sign in is blue, but I don't think I see anyone new. I think the only person we were missing was Girly, but I still don't see Girly, so might have been someone logging in with their phone. Um, so yeah, try not to be more than 15 minutes late or try not to leave more than 15 minutes early. I'll give you the sign out code 15 minutes before class ends. I'll be using a rubric for participation, just so you kind of see what the rubric looks like. I don't want to, I'm recording this and I don't want to show names in the recording, so let me see if I could minimize this. Nope. Okay. That's the way I designed the page. Can't hide the names. But basically actually, let me go to grades. Okay, yeah, so here we go. So I grade based on respect, responsibility, work habits, productivity, collaboration, integrity, and average. And usually I'm pretty nice about this. Um, and then I pretty much, if you're not attending class every day, that will probably affect it. And if I notice, like, I don't know, you're always late or never really participating, I might take off a few points there. But it's out of three, so for each of those, you get a one, two, or three, or a zero if it's really bad. But I doubt anyone will get zero for those. Um, and lastly, at LAPC, we respect and honor opinions of the student. At any time during this course, the student is able to make an informal comment or recommendation. At the end of the course, the student is requested to submit teacher and course evaluations. So this is like a little overview of what we'll be covering in InDesign. Might not be exactly what it says here, but for the first week, I'll go over. First day, we'll talk about the whole InDesign user interface. Um, so the workspace and tools, and we'll look at text, graphics, objects, and styles. Styles will probably come a little later. Um, Setting up document and working with pages, working with objects, and quiz one. Now, I might not give you a quiz. I might give you a quiz. I don't know. I don't have any quizzes planned for you. But if I feel like it, I might make a little quiz. And your projects will be graded with this rubric here. So it'll be based on time management, clarity, originality, and execution. So time management, if I notice you submitted stuff on time, um, and it looks like you actually put uh, time and effort into it, and clarity, graphics are used effectively and have strong impact on the total design. Originality, graphics and text used on the design project reflect an exceptional degree of student creativity. Also, you're not really copying what I gave you as an example or what other people did. And then execution is just overall how nice it looks, how attractive it is. Um, we're not going to cover too many design principles in this class. That's a different course that we have at LAPC, but maybe you've already taken that course, so you might have a head start on that. But using things like proper size text, not too many text, not too many fonts. Stick to one or two, maybe three fonts throughout the design. Use colors that complement each other. Make sure your backgrounds are not distracting, making the text hard to read. Um, Make sure you're using high quality images. You don't want to have pixelated images ruining your design. So things like that. Um, and that's about it for the syllabus. So if you ever need to look at the syllabus, it's on Google Classroom. Again, under class resources. So from any questions about Google Classroom or the syllabus or um, what software we're going to be using?
Yeah, question.
Yeah.
Um, if we are using a different, like let's say I'm using a 2020 InDesign, would it be different from the latest one, or would I
Tw-
be still able to use it?
2020 is still pretty new. I mean, even if you're using like I don't know, 2000,
So the interface will
2006.
probably similar, right?
Yeah, I mean, it might look a little bit different. Why don't I open it so you could see? But I think
What are you
2022.
using now?
I believe it's. I don't know. I have it updated, so wait. This is Dreamweaver. Sorry, InDesign 2023. So yeah,
Oh,
I'm constantly updating
on the
it.
latest.
Yeah, I mean, it's just auto updating for me. But I don't. Honestly, from the first time I used Adobe InDesign CS6, even before it was Creative Cloud, not much has changed. I think there are a few things that were added, um, such as like the sharing options. You probably, if you have 2020, you have the share options. You can click share. It might say something else though. It might just say share for review somewhere. But these are just tools for like creating links that will allow others to view your document and leave comments on it and stuff. I know there was some other new features recently added. They're always adding little features, but nothing major. So you should be able to do everything that we do with our lessons. Anyways, while I have this open, why don't I give you a tour of Adobe InDesign? So, so this is Adobe InDesign. I have a. This is just one of the starter files. You can all download this. This is actually available on Google Classroom. It's also available if you click Learn and click Get Started with InDesign. I've actually just downloaded some of these starter files. You could just click Get Files, and so far I've got Get Started with InDesign, Add Text, Format Text, and Add and Transform Graphics. So these files I've already downloaded. You could download it from here, or you could download it from Google Classroom. They're right here. So getting started lessons. Probably a good idea to download those right now because I think the first one is like 77 megabytes. So if you have slow internet, it might take a while to download. So go ahead and start downloading those already just to be prepared. Usually, the lesson files that I use for this class are pretty old. They're from Adobe InDesign CS6. It's more than like 15 years old by now, I think. So I'll try to keep those at a minimum using those, but again, it's not much different. They're just different files. But I'll try to use some of the newer stuff. So let's click on the Get Started with InDesign. Actually, I already have the file, so let me open that file. You don't have to have it right now. I'm just gonna give you a basic overview of everything. Tour. Right, so if you've used Adobe before, you might see some familiar things here, like your Tools panel. Tools panel will be on the left side by default, but you can always drag it out, have it floating. You could put it on the right side if you want. Just drag it until you see like a blue line, and then it'll sort
David,
of dock there.
excuse
Yeah.
me. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Are we supposed to see what you're doing right now?
Oh, you don't see it?
Yeah, I don't know if
S-
it's just me.
What are you seeing by now? Oh, you're seeing
I
the
see.
wrong. Sorry
There you
about
go. Thank
that.
you. Thank you.
Okay, was I sharing the wrong monitor? I think I was. Yeah. So um, since yeah you didn't see any of that, I was talking about when you first open InDesign, you'll see like Home, which might show some recent files. When you click Learn, you'll see Get Started with InDesign, and here you could download those files that I've downloaded. You just click Get Files for each section. So I've got these four so far, and they're just right here in Google Classroom. So
Oh,
getting started lessons.
the same data in Adobe website as well. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah, I got them already.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So let me just,
And videos as well.
I'm going to open up the first one here, the tour. All right, so we have our file menu up here at the very top. And normally this is over here, our tools panel. This is where you'll grab all of your tools, like the move tool. You want to move something, it's the black arrow. You can click on it and drag it. That's kind of strange that they separated some of the letters here into separate text boxes. I'm not sure why they did that. You have your direct selection tool for selecting single shapes. So you can group things together. If you have different graphics, like this mountain here or this number 5, you can select two of them holding shift and selecting them. And then you can say object group. Whenever you have a group of objects, using the black arrow to move them will move the whole thing together. But if you want to move like an individual object in the group, then you can use the white arrow, which is the direct selection tool. And then you can click on a single object to move it, even if it's grouped with other things. It's just an example of some of the tools you have. Those are just some basic tools that you'll probably use often. But those are all in your tools panel. You can click this little double arrow here to make it 2 columns or a single column. Again, you could drag it out so that it's not docked. So it'll be free floating. You could put it on the right side if that's what you prefer. When you drag it to one side, you'll notice like a blue line appear. That's how you know it's going to stick there. It should also be able to stick it here, but not sure what. Okay, there we go. If you mess things up here or you close things, you want to bring them back, you can click up here where it says Essentials. Might look different on a Mac, but it's gonna be up here somewhere. You might have on a Mac like a second bar. I'm not sure. There might be an icon for the picking one of these, but these are just different like layouts for how you want things arranged. Essentials just gives you like the essential tools that you need, and panels. So I'll reset this to bring it back to normal. I don't like it like this. I'll show you what I prefer to use, just because you know the more commonly used panels. The classic view is not bad. Essentials classic. This is pretty good to start with, I think. It's got most of the panels that you need, and they're sort of minimized. You could bring them open like this, clicking the double arrows. But yeah, some of the useful panels that you'll find are pages. So you could quickly see what pages you have. You could drag this down maybe if you don't see all your pages. These for now you might want to ignore these. We'll learn about master pages later. But these are your actual pages. You might not see them, so might need to drag it down. But you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You could also number them like A, B, C, or Roman numerals, but we'll talk about how you change those later. Double clicking on a page will take you to that page. You could also just scroll down to the other pages. Some documents, so sometimes you're designing something like a journal or a book. In that case, your pages might look different. You'll have what's called facing pages. So for spreads where you have a left side and a right side, left page, right page, it'll look different here. Up here is your control panel. You'll be using this a lot. It has a lot of options here for things like right now you could see like I have a fill picker and a stroke picker. So fill is the color within an object or a shape. The stroke is the outline of it, and then you could choose the thickness of the stroke here and also what type of stroke you want it to be, solid or dashed or dotted or double. Um, it usually changes based on what you have selected. Right now, I don't have anything selected. If I go to edit, you see it says deselect all is grayed out because I've already deselected everything. I really don't have anything selected except my selection tool. So this will change based on what tool you have selected and what object you have selected. Notice when I switch between different tools, that looks different. Most of it is the same, but there are certain tools I click on where it will change completely. Also, based on what object I have selected, this will change. So if I select something like this number 5 here, which I've made a group out of, let me ungroup it. I just select the 5. You'll see things like the X and Y location. So this is just basically where it is on the page. You can see it says 6.769 inches, 3.319 inches. If I bring it up to the left corner, it's 0, 0. So that just tells you the coordinates for your object, starting from this top left point here. So wherever that top left point is, that's what this represents. You probably won't really use that too much unless, I don't know, you're trying to make things exact, um, trying to be really specific with something. But that's what the X and the Y is, and then the width and the height would be the W and the H. So if I make this bigger, you can see that increases. Actually, notice, unlike in some other software that you might use, when I do this, the 5 does not get bigger. The box just gets bigger. You're gonna notice that a lot in InDesign. It might be annoying at first, but that's just the way it works. Like for example, this picture here. If I wanted to make this picture bigger, if I drag this, it's not gonna get bigger. The box gets bigger, the picture stays the same. If I make the box smaller, it'll crop off parts of the picture. If I make it bigger again, it'll reveal
What
the
about holding the
image.
shift key?
If you hold the shift key, um, it's just gonna constrain the proportions of the box. So an example would be here. If I have like a perfect circle, if I just create a circle, I get an oval. If I hold shift, I get a circle.
Yeah,
And then if I resize it,
that's the one.
it'll be an oval again. But if I hold shift, it'll keep the proportions. So shift is just to constrain your proportions, same as in other Adobe software and other software in general. That's how shift works. If you want to scale it and not just make the box bigger, you have to hold the control button. Or on a Mac, that's, I believe it's command. Try command or option. I'm not sure which one it is, but on Windows it's control. But you don't really need to do this either. If you're trying to make something bigger, just make the box bigger. And then what you can do is click on one of these buttons. Again, remember the control panel changes based on what you have selected. So if you have a frame selected, most likely you will see these frame options up here. So if you hover
Split the
over it,
screen.
it'll say fill frame proportionally, fit content proportionally, fit content to frame, fit frame to content, or center content. So these are really useful. You could also right click and pick these options. If you right click, choose fitting, you'll see those same options except without the icon. It'll just say what it is. but these options fill frame proportionally down to center content. Those are these buttons here. Okay.
David, just a question again.
Yeah.
On the window panel, which workspace do you choose there to see
Right.
all those options?
This one is Essentials
It's
Classic.
it's essential. Okay.
Not Essentials, but Essentials Classic.
Okay. Thank you.
It's the way it used to look with CS6 before the Creative Cloud. Um, but if you mess it up like this, you switch to another one and you come back, it's still gonna look the way it was last time you touched it. But if you want to reset it, click Reset Essentials Classic. Oh, I guess I had already messed with it before. This is what it's supposed to look like. The one I had was, I guess, my own version of it, which is more like advanced. Let me click Reset Advanced to double check. Yeah, choose Advanced because that mostly resembles what I would use. We can always create our own workspace. You could say new workspace if you make changes, but we'll do that in a little bit. So yeah, working with images, it's a little bit different than you're used to because everything is inside a frame. Text is inside a frame. Images are inside a frame. You could have frames within frames as well, which could get messy. But if you ever want to fit an image to the frame, make the frame as big as you want, then click on the first option here, fill frame proportionally. That will fill up the frame and it'll crop off whatever doesn't fit. So what that does, let me see if there's a better image to try it with. Maybe this face might be easier to see. So this is the entire image, right? But the frame is bigger than the image right now. If I click this, it'll make the image fit the frame. If I make the frame narrow like this, make it really long, and I click this, it's going to make the image big enough to fill the entire thing and crop off the rest, right? This is all cropped off right now. If you double click on any of these, it'll fit it to the image. Same with the text boxes. If you double click one of these little squares, like the bottom one, the height will adjust to fit the frame. So that's useful to know. I don't want to move too fast, so I'm gonna say file revert. If you want to change your file to how it was before you made any changes to it, you can click file revert. If it's grayed out, that means I don't know why it's grayed out actually. It should still let me revert. Maybe it's because I haven't saved this file. But yeah, it's not letting me revert to the way it was. Also, another thing, when you first opened this, did it give you any pop-up saying you're missing fonts or something? If it did, if you have the Creative Cloud, you have access to all of the Adobe fonts, and you should be able to unlock those fonts and actually install them and use them. For me, it looks like it's fine. If you were missing fonts, the text box with the font in it would be highlighted pink. So the text would be pink, would have a pink highlight if you were missing a font. But as you can see here, I'm not missing any. Also, it might not show you. I might be in preview mode. Let me see. There's different view modes. So I think I'm in preview mode. That's why we're not seeing our frames and stuff. If I go to view, click on screen mode, I'm on normal view, so normal view normally should show me like missing fonts highlighted pink, and it should also show me my text boxes and stuff. But I'm guessing it's turned off from the view options. Um, if you
Excuse me. I have
yeah
a question.
uh-huh.
About the layers, how do we arrange it?
Do you have the layers panel open? So
Yes.
layers,
Okay.
layers, you're not gonna have new layers unless you create the new layer yourself. But you are gonna have sub layers. Every object, every text box, individual shape will have its own sub layer, and then you can click on the little arrow to see them, and you can click and drag to rearrange them. The top object is gonna be on top. Like if you want days from to be below the 5, and actually days from is made up of these individual shapes. These are not text, by the way. I can't double click on it and change the text to a different letter or change the font because this text has been converted into a shape. It's no longer a basic text. It's actually a shape that you can manipulate just like you could in something like Adobe Illustrator, made up of these anchor points. So it's a vector object, just like stuff you would create in Adobe Illustrator. So you will notice there's a lot of the tools that you might see in Adobe Illustrator, some of them that you might see in Photoshop. So it's kind of like a mix between Photoshop and Illustrator tools. The reason is because you can import Photoshop files and Illustrator files into here and still be able to edit them sometimes. Um, but yeah, some objects might look like text, but they're actually shapes. The way you know is just by selecting it. You don't get any text options. So that's an object. That's an object. This is also an object. This is text. I know it's text because when I select it, um, I can double click on it and get my cursor here to highlight the text. Also, I don't see any text options here. Actually, you do see this here. It says basic text frame. On another object, it's not going to say basic text frame. Also, you get these are text box options, like how many columns do you want, number of columns, the gutter for the columns. So this is just a single column, but say 2 columns here or 3 columns. Control Z or Command Z to undo. I would recommend right now just use the get familiar with the selection tool as the first tool to get familiar with right now, and kind of explore your workspace. Set it up how you want. I would recommend having the pages panel here. So start with the advanced layout and click reset advanced just to get it how it looks right here. But these are the most useful panels for me: pages, layers, links. The reason why there's links here is because when you create an InDesign document, not everything is embedded in the InDesign file. So that keeps the file size down. So when you save a file as something .indd for InDesign file, um, in order to keep the file size down, some of the pictures will be linked instead of actually embedded in the file. So that means if you were gonna share this with someone to let them continue working on it, or maybe you work for um, I don't know, an agency, and you guys save your files and different designers work on the same files, or maybe they reference it. years later because they're gonna create something based off of an old design. Um, you would save the InDesign file, but you would also have to save all of the assets along with it, maybe in like an assets folder. So all these images that you see here, like this one, this one, this one, they're not actually embedded in this file. If I open up the lesson file, I think it was this one. No, this is not the one. Oh yeah, it is this one, tour.indesign. Where are they linked from? They might be linked online. Yeah, you can see it says users Brian Wood desktop links. James too. They might also be embedded. I don't get why they're linked. Oh no, these are embedded. As you can see here, they are actually embedded. That's why there's no separate file here, no folder for the images. But normally they would be linked. But these are all embedded. That's why the file size is so large. So if I click, this is tour.indesign, you can see it's 40 megabytes at 39.1 megabytes. If none of those images were linked, I mean, if none of these images were embedded, the file size would be way smaller, right? So the total file size for the InDesign file includes all the images because they are actually embedded. But I'll show you an example where they're not embedded. Let me just close this one. Let's say file, new document. So creating a new document looks like this. File, new document. You could also pick some presets. So file, new document. We could pick print, web, or mobile, depending on what type of document you're creating. So if we pick print, you'll see your units will be in this weird unit called picas. I think this is an invention of Adobe, the pica unit. But if you want to convert it to something else, you can just click this and choose inches. For example, you'll see that 8.5 by 11 inches is actually 51p by 66p. Or you could look at it in pixels. But usually, if it's going to be for print, I would look at it in inches because you're going to be printing an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. Then that helps you see that it's 8.5 by 11. And you can see here I've created a new document. And you'll notice when I zoom out, it's kind of weird looking because it's not centered in my workspace. It's kind of on the right side. If I open my pages, you'll notice there's like a line to the left of this. If I create a new page, it's going to be down here. If I create another page, it's going to be like this. This is because I'm actually creating a document with facing pages or spreads. So if I was going to create a book type file, this is a facing pages option. If you don't want it to have facing pages, you just need to uncheck the option here where it says facing pages. Just uncheck that and do the same thing. Now you'll notice it's centered, and when I create new documents, they're by themselves. They're not one by one. Okay, so file, new document. So I'm just gonna keep everything on the default. Let's choose inches so we can see it in inches. Doesn't matter facing pages or not. I'm just showing you what it looks like when you bring an image and don't embed it. Here, let me save this first. File, save as. I'll just create it. I'll save it on my desktop, I guess. Call this example.InDesign. If we look here, where is it? Example.InDesign properties. It's only 572 kilobytes. It's a pretty small file size. And then if I go to my downloads, let me see if I have some random pictures here. There's Pan's Labyrinth from our Photoshop class. Drop that in there. I'm just dragging it and dropping it, by the way. This is how you would import. This is one way to import images. As you can see, it's huge, but we can always shrink it down. Shrink it down, click on fill frame proportionally, or we can do fit content proportionally. That will fit it without cropping it. So there will be some empty space in my frame. I could just double click to fit that frame to the image. Same with this one. Just make the box smaller. And then click the fit content proportionally. Double click this. Now that's fit to that. Anyways, these are two pretty large files. But if I click on links, by the way, this got rearranged. Links is normally up there. If I click links, you'll see here, there's my two links. So there's the first image and the second image. And it tells you here like where the image is actually saved. If I look here, it says C users David downloads, because I got it from my downloads folder. So it tells you where the image is supposed to be. If that image is no longer there, let's say I delete the images. When we look here, you'll get a little question mark here. It says missing. Whenever an image is missing, you'll still be able to see it, but you might not be able to see it in high quality. So normally you're not going to be previewing things high quality anyway. If you go to view, you'll notice where it says screen mode or display performance. It's going to be on typical display by default. You would put it on high quality display if you wanted it to be high resolution, nice looking image. But right now it's kind of pixelated. If I undo delete, bring these images back, go to my links here.
David, what is your minimum effective PPI?
For print, 300.
Can I use 150?
Yeah, 150 is decent too, but if you want like high quality, should be 300. The bigger the print file, the actual product, the smaller you can go. I mean, if it's like a billboard, you can go like 72. But if it's an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, or even smaller, then definitely keep it 300.
Understood. Understood.
Yeah. But I guess 150 if you have to. Sometimes you have no choice. And I think this image is just it's not too high resolution of an image. Let me double check. Here's what the actual image looks like. Oh no, it is actually pixelated here. So when I zoom in, I shouldn't be seeing these pixels right now. If I go to view, display performance, it is already on high quality display, so might need to relink or maybe I just need to view screen mode preview. I don't know why it's still showing me the pixelated version. Presentation. I think it's just because I have it shrunken down so much. Oh, I don't know. it's supposed to be showing me the actual high quality version of it. Let's go downloads. Double click. Just to double check. It is actually more pixelated. Yeah, you could clearly see that the quality of this one is inferior to this one. Normally, to view something high quality, first you have to make sure the link is not broken, and then you have to choose display performance high quality. Maybe you have to uncheck this thing. Nope. I'm not sure what the object level display settings is. Maybe it's just you could choose the display quality of specific objects. But this one, I don't see any options here. Let's relink it though. Maybe I have to relink so it knows that the image is there. Oh, there we go. So after I deleted it, I had to relink it to get the high quality version back. Same with this one. So you can see it's really pixelated. That's again, it's because I deleted the original image off my computer, so I have to relink it. I have to tell it that it's back. So relink, open, there we go. But yeah, normally if you go to display performance, it's on typical display, which will show you a slightly pixelated version of the image just to make your InDesign work faster so you could scroll and not lag. If you have a really slow computer, you might even set that to fast display where it won't even show you the images, just show you the placeholders for them. So you just place them wherever you want, and then when you're ready to like preview it, you can click to screen mode or display performance, set it to high quality, and then you can also change the screen mode. So screen mode is normally it's going to be on normal. Normal shows you your guidelines. So this is actually my page margins, the purple line. It's just there to tell you that you should keep things within those margins. All the important stuff anyway. If you created guidelines out of these rulers, they would show up here as well. But if you go to view screen mode preview, they disappear. It just shows you what it would look like. Final product. You want like a full screen preview, you could click on screen mode, presentation. There's a couple other ones like bleed. If you have any bleed lines are just like extra margins outside of the paper that you should extend. Any colors that you want to go all the way to the edge of the paper should extend all the way to the bleed lines. That way, whenever it gets printed, since you're going beyond the actual edge of the paper, if they, start cutting the paper, they won't have like white edges because you've made sure to include your color all the way past the edges in your design. But I don't have bleeds on this, so it's not showing me any bleed lines. And slug is just another outside the border for, I don't know, setting your crop marks and stuff. But yeah, practice with a couple images, just place them in there and try resizing. Try these different buttons here, see what they do, right? You'll notice one of them, the one that you'll use most often is going to be the fill frame proportionally, because I don't know, you want to fill an entire box with an image and just crop off parts of it. Then you could actually click inside the middle and then move the image within the frame. Click to center it with this last one here. If you wanted to show the entire image, not crop off any part of it, then you would choose the second option, fit content proportionally. If you want to fit the frame to the content, then fit frame to content. If you don't care about preserving the shape of the image, you just want the image to be this size, and you don't care about squishing the image and stuff, you can click fit content to frame. That will actually squish it to fit it inside. But that's, you don't know, you want to, that's something you would avoid, I think, most of the time. And be careful.
Distorted.
Huh?
Distorted.
Yeah, it's gonna be distorted if you do that. Same as, if you hold control and you resize something, you could distort it like that as well.
Yeah.
That's why if you were gonna hold control and resize something, make sure you also hold shift so you don't distort it. So control and shift to resize without distorting. And you're gonna be annoyed by this. Sometimes you click in the middle of the picture. Right now it didn't do it, but if I like click right in the center and I move this, you think, oh, what's going on? I'm actually moving the image within the frame. Let me go to view, screen mode, normal. So you can see the frame, and I'm actually moving the image within the frame.
Okay.
So if you want to avoid that, then just grab the image from like the side instead of from the center. Yeah, let me stop talking for like 5 minutes and let you guys mess around with it and give you a chance to ask questions that might come up. Okay, I'll pause the recording for 5 minutes. Okay, let me continue a little bit because I just realized I went off on a tangent. I didn't really get to the point I was trying to make with the links. So I already deleted the file, but yeah, whenever you link the files, you save the file size. So let me just do that real quick. File, new document, create a new document. Just place these images in there again. Dropping 2 images. Now, before I drop the images, look at the file size for the image. This one's 1.2 megabytes. This one's 1.2 megabytes, so should be adding about 3 megabytes to the file size. Remember, it was like 50 kilobytes or something at first without the images added. So whenever I drop these in right now, actually, here, let me show you something useful. Whenever you're placing images, just so you don't have to do this annoying thing where it just drops the image and then you have to kind of scale it down. So whenever I bring it like this, I think when you drag it in, you have no choice. Actually, you do have a choice. If I drag this, oops, if I drag this image and let go, you'll notice it gives me a little preview of the image. And then if I just click, yeah, it'll come in all huge. But if I don't click, if I click and drag, I can make it as small as I want. So that's probably a better way to do it. When you drag it in there, don't just click and drag. It will constrain the proportions for you. You don't have to hold shift, and then you could just choose whatever size you want to make it. Say we drop those two in, we check our links. You can see they are in fact linked. It does not say embedded. When you select the link, you can see where the file is linked from. If it ever gets deleted, you'll see that it was supposed to be in this location. So if it's not there, someone must have deleted it or moved the image. If I close this and save it on the desktop as example linked, and we look at the file size for example linked, you'll see the file size is 1.73 megabytes. So it's going to be a little bit bigger than if the images were not there at all, but it's still smaller than the two images combined. So linking it is saving us the file size. Now, if I go back to this, or not this one, example linked, and I go to my links and I right click and say embed link on both of them, right click, embed link. Now the image is actually embedded into the file. So let me save this as example embedded and save that. Now if we look at example embedded properties, you see it's 4.26 megabytes, right? So it's going to be more than double the size of this one, even though they look exactly the same when you open them. The difference is on the linked example, the images are linked, and on the embedded example, they are actually embedded into the file. So there's going to be a big difference here. It's important to understand this because you might be asked to submit your files, or you might be working with a team and they're going to want to see the files to be able to work on them or edit them later. You want to make sure you're including, if you're not embedding the image, make sure you're including the linked images with the file. Right, so if I was to share this with you guys, if I were to upload example linked to Google Classroom and you downloaded it, you would not be able to see the high quality version of these images because I didn't send you the linked image. Now, if I sent you example linked, I would also need to make sure I send you these two pictures. So that's why there's actually an option in InDesign whenever you're sharing files. You have to say file package. And what file package does is it creates like a nice zip file for you that includes your InDesign file along with any linked images or files that you might have. So when I click package, and let's just package it on the desktop as example linked package. Now, if I go to my desktop, you'll see here, actually it didn't zip it for me, but it did create a folder. See, it created this folder called example linked. When I open it, you'll see there's example linked, IDML. It gives me two different files, the InDesign file and an IDML file. Also gives me a PDF. And it also gives me a folder called links where those two images are saved. So it's nice because it just packages it for you. That way, whenever you're saving this file and you want other people to be able to work on it, you just give them this entire folder, not just a single linked file, not just a single InDesign file. It's kind of like if you've ever created a website, you don't just send the HTML file by itself, right? If you have a website, it's going to have multiple HTML files possibly. You might have an images folder where all your images are saved. You might have a CSS folder for your styles. So it's the same concept, right? If you're going to have links, make sure you package everything into a nice folder so it can be worked on again. Okay, any questions on that? But for the first few assignments, I'll probably just ask you to make a PDF. I won't ask you to give me a linked folder or packaged folder. But I just want to get that out of the way so you guys don't wonder like what's happening with my file. I saved it, but the images are missing. It's probably because you didn't embed it and they were linked and you didn't save the linked images. Trying to delete them, but they're still open. Right, so normally we take a break at 8 o'clock, and it's almost 8. Any questions before we take a break? If you haven't downloaded InDesign yet, probably want to go to Adobe and you're going to look at creativity and design, view all creative cloud products. So you could get InDesign by itself. You can get a free trial. I think it's for how many days? 7-day free trial. You can buy it by itself, which would cost you $21 a month, which is kind of too much, right? Or $54.99 a month for all the apps, including Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, all the Adobe stuff that you would want. But this is the regular price. If you're a student, you get the whole Creative Cloud for $20 a month. So same price as what InDesign by itself would normally cost you. I don't think they have a deal for individual. If you're a student or teacher, it's the whole Creative Cloud package. So you're probably gonna get the Creative Cloud all apps. That means you can download whichever Adobe app you want. You don't have to, but you have the option to. Here's what Creative Cloud looks like when you download. There's a app called Creative Cloud, Adobe Creative Cloud, and this will show you all of your Creative Cloud apps that you have. You can see you have Photoshop, 2 different versions of Illustrator for some reason. I should probably get rid of this one. It'll tell you if you have updates available. And if you need others, it'll tell you here available in your plan. These are others that I can download that I have not downloaded. But InDesign is one of them. So yeah, you get all those apps. You also get all the fonts that Adobe provides. I think you might get a free trial of Adobe's stock images. If you need any stock images. Anyways, if you need a student account, I think all you need is a LAPC .edu email address, and you should be able to get the student discount. All right, it's already 8:02. So any questions before we take a break? No? Okay, let's take a break then. Let me stop the recording or pause it. Yeah, while on break, I was double checking our schedule. This is the schedule I have. Is this the same that you guys have? According to this schedule, we have class today and tomorrow is lab day. So 3, 4
Yes.
looks like we don't have class um, on Thursday or Friday, but we do have class on the 9th and the 10th. It's kind of a weird schedule. It's not very consistent. So we have class today, tomorrow. Tomorrow is a lab day, meaning I won't be doing any lecture. So since I'm not doing any lecture tomorrow, I'll probably give you a quick assignment today. And we'll be back on Monday, 9, 10 will be lecture, 11 will be lab day, 16th is a holiday. I forget which holiday that is. January 16 holiday. Is that Martin Luther King Jr. Day? Okay. So yeah, 16 is a holiday. 17 and 18 will be Tuesday and Wednesday. We'll have lab on the 20th, on the Friday. And Monday the 23rd, we'll be back with lecture. 24 and 25 will be lab day. 30th and the 31st, Monday, Tuesday, will be lecture day. And then February 1 and 2 will be lab day, it looks like. Kind of a weird schedule. I might switch around the lecture and lab days sometimes, but I think you guys also have that schedule. Let me know if your schedule is different, because I received this a while ago. It might have changed. I might not have the updated one. But if yours differs from that one, let me know. And then looks like I'll be teaching Illustrator 1 and 2 next month. Okay. So let me continue giving you a little preview of InDesign, or tour of InDesign, right? So we saw that we have our file panel on the top. We can choose our workspace from here. If we want to share our file, there's a share button. Your panels will be on the right side by default, but again, everything can be reorganized, moved around. If you want to save your workspace, you reset it. Let me remind you which panels that I have open. I've got the pages because I want to be able to navigate my pages easily. Ignore the master page for now, but just so you know, the master page is where you would place graphics and guidelines that you want to appear on all the other pages based on that master. So you could have multiple master pages. As you can see, this has this letter A at the top. It's kind of hard to see, but there's a little A up there. This one has a little B. This one has A. If we look here, we've got two master pages, A and B. This just means that A is the master page for page 1, B is the master page for page 2, and any graphics or guidelines that those layers have will be applied to those layers. We'll look at more, we'll look into that more later, but right now just worry about the actual pages. You have your layers panel, which currently I just have one layer, but it's technically not just one layer. There's technically two layers. Actually, there should be more than two layers. What am I saying? Oh, okay, each page has its own layers, I guess. If I select page 1, we open this, we can see all the different individual graphics that are on here will be on their own page. This one says polygon. Polygon is actually the NOWH. And this compound path, if we wanted to select Actually, I don't think that is. That might not be polygon, sorry. If we click this button, click to select items, that will show us what polygon is. This is polygon. If you wanted, you could rename them so you're not like confused. Double click on the name and we could rename that to like M. If you want to know, that's that M. What's this one? Click this little box next to it. That's the O. If you wanted to know, that's the R. That's the F. That's the S. That's the Y, A, D. That's the 5. Compound path, that's the E. The R. So each individual object will have its own layer. You can see this one here, graphic frame, is actually multiple objects. When I click the graphic frame, it highlights, puts a box around all 4 of these letters. And then you'll notice that also has a drop down. If I click the drop down, that layer or that sub layer has its own sub layers for each of these individual letters that are inside of it. So if you have grouped objects, they will have a drop down with sub layers in them. So everything is organized in here, right? But if you wanted, you could also create a new layer. Maybe you want to put all your graphics on one layer, all your text on another layer. You might have a graphics layer and a text layer. You could just rename it like graphics, put all your graphics on that layer, and then have another layer created just for text. Right? You could organize it that way. Each layer will have its own color. Graphics is blue right now, so whenever I highlight something from the graphics layer, the outline will be blue. But let's say I created something on the text layer. Let's say select the text layer, create a text box. You'll notice the text box has a red outline because that layer is red. Let me go into screen mode preview, so actually view screen mode normal. So sometimes even in normal view, the frames are hidden. If you want to go into the actual like view options and say whether you want to see the guidelines and the frame boxes, because right now I don't see them. Kind of looks like I'm in preview mode even though I'm on normal view. But if I go to view extras, we can say show frame edges. Now we could see the actual frame edges for all the individual shapes. Maybe not all of them, but most of them. View extras, show text threads, if we had any. I don't have any right now. Show assigned frames. I think everything is turned on right now. Grids and guides, show guides. Now we can see our guidelines that were hidden before. Grids and guides, show, okay, baseline grid, probably won't have that turned on usually, but these are the baseline grids. It's like if you wanted like a grid to align your text to, you could do that. And then I think you should be able to select the text box like this one and have it aligned to that baseline grid. I forget where the option was to turn that on. I think it's under object text frame options. Object text frame options gives you options for your text frames. Things like number of columns, the gutter for the column, the width of the text frame. Inset spacing is just how much space you want away from the edges of the actual box that you put the text in. Says align top. Let's see, baseline options. Maybe it's not here. Column rules, baseline options. Okay, maybe it's not there. But there should be a way to make sure like all the text is sitting on these blue lines, which is the baseline. So there should be a way to do it. I just forget how to do it right now. I thought it would be under text frame options. That would make sense if it was there, but it's not. Oh, it's here actually. Baseline grid. Why didn't I see that earlier? Use custom baseline grid? No. Also, you could set that the line height from your paragraph options. Which brings me to some of the other panels that you want to have open. Right now, I don't have paragraph and character options. I have paragraph styles, character styles, but that's different. Those are styles that you can save and apply. Like whenever you want to reuse like the same font color and font size, you could create a style out of it and save it as a character style. Or if you want to save the entire paragraph style, like how the whole paragraph is styled, you can do that. But if you want to actually have your paragraph and character panel, you got to go to Window, Type and Tables, Character. Um, where did it go? Window, Type and Table. It's somewhere. I think it's off on my other monitor. Yeah, it's here. So there's my character panel. You could dock that in there. And then go to Window, Type and Table again, and choose Paragraph. And also put that here. So now I have my actual character panel and paragraph panel. So maybe under our paragraph panel, we can only line first line to grid. No. Okay, well, under paragraph or character panel, you'll see something called leading or leading. This sets your line height. You could choose how far apart you want your lines to be. Usually have it on auto. And yeah, there should be a way to align it up to this grid. I'll find out later, tell you how to use that one. But normally I don't use it, so I'll just go ahead and turn it off. So go back to View, Grids and Guides, hide baseline grid. We don't need to see it. We're not really using it. You'll notice this has a bunch of columns set up here. So if you want to use those columns as a guide, they're using it here to say they want this box to be 2 columns wide. Right, so it uses that as a guide like that. Here we've got like another text box that's 3 columns wide. This one's not really sticking exactly to the columns, but it's about 2 columns wide. You can define your columns under layout, margins and columns. And you can see right now we have 8 columns. 1, 2, or yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So under layout margins and columns, if you don't want 8 columns, you could like change that maybe to 4 columns. Click OK or preview it first. I think maybe I don't have this page selected because it's not showing me the preview. Yeah, I'm not sure why it's not giving me the preview. I'm gonna click OK. Maybe it did that to. Oh, it only did it to the page that I had selected, which was this one. So you gotta actually have. You could set the margins or your column guides to individual pages. So make sure you have the page selected. Actually have it enabled. Click on the page, then go to margins and columns, and then you should be able to. Now it's actually updating the preview. So now it's 4 instead of 8. You can also go to layout and create guides that way. You could create these guides will be a blue color instead of purple. You could also create columns with this one. You can see it added these blue guidelines. Oops. But probably best to look at it on a new file so it's not distracting with all those graphics. Let me create a new file. This one, let's make sure they're turned on. So extras, grids and guides, show baseline grid, no. Hide guides. Okay, so guides are enabled. That's why it says hide. But that's why we can see the purple line. You can also see these guidelines that I could drag from the ruler. If you don't see the ruler, go to view, show rulers. Right now it says hide because I'm already seeing them, but that's like you drag out custom guides from there as well. But let's say we wanted a guide for our layout. We say layout, margins and columns. Let's say I want a, I don't know, 3-column grid here. You can choose the number of columns. The gutter is the space between them. So if I set that to 0, there won't be any space between them. You can also have it set from the margins, or you could have it set from the edge of the page. Actually, in this case, let's see if I put this to 0 and 0. So here's the inside and the outside. That's going to be, since I have facing pages turned on, inside represents like the seam of the book. That's the inside, that's the outside. So whenever I go to layout, margins and columns, I set the inside to 0. See, the left side is gonna disappear, or the margin disappears. On the outside, that's this side. We also have the top and the bottom. Anyways, if I did that, then I could have these guidelines from the edge of the paper. But then you can also set where you want the page to start from. So maybe, I think it's usually on 1p6. Or you could type, you don't have to use p units because that's weird. I don't think anyone uses that. You could put like, I don't know, point 0.175 inches, in for inches, and that actually gives you inches. Or let's do 0.5 inches. Right, so we get a ½ inch margin on the left side, 0.5 on the right side, 0.5 inch, I should say. And then it converts it to the p units or picas. 3p is ½ an inch. but I'm just gonna cancel and let it stay at the default. So you could also not use those guides, or you could keep those guides just for your like borders, but you can go to layout and then create guides this way. And yeah, so this way I could set up like how many columns I want also. Let's turn on preview so we can see that. So these are blue because I want to create guides instead of margins. And we can see here we've got these blue guidelines for 6 columns. Set the gutter to 0. And I could also say if I want to fit the guides to the margins or the page. So set to margins, it'll start from this margin and end at that margin. If I set it to page, it ignores the purple line and just goes from the edge of the paper. Normally, I'll put it on margins. So if you have margins, you want to create your columns within those margins. Kind of makes more sense that way to set up your design that way. I think it's a really good idea to create these boxes. It kind of helps have a nice layout that just looks more appealing at the end whenever you try to follow the guidelines. So let's say I have 6 guidelines, 6 columns. You can also add rows if you want. So we can have rows with their own gutters. I'll just put that to 0. So now we have like a 6 by 6. So I'll click OK. And then if I was gonna start designing my page, I might have a text box that fits maybe, I don't know, here within these columns and rows. By the way, you can right click in a text box and fill it with placeholder text, which is kind of useful. It just fills it with lorem ipsum. Where is it? Fill with placeholder text. It'll just fill it with some dummy text for you. You could use these in your tools panel. If you don't have an image to use at the moment, you just want to, do the layout, figure out where you want the image to go. You could use this rectangle frame tool and draw a frame where you want the image to be. And then you can like play around with it and figure out how you want to design this page. Maybe you want some text here and this here, maybe some background to fill in the empty areas. But this lets you, play around with the design until you figure out what the actual text is. And having the columns and rows just kind of helps be able to figure it out. Now, I would probably add, if you don't have those gutters, the problem with that is going to be that the picture might fill up this entire box, and then it'll be like right up against the text. So that's a reason why you might want to, when you create the guides, do include the gutter. And also when you're creating new guides, you already have some guides, you want to click remove existing ruler guides so you don't have them like overlapping. But here's what it would look like with 6 by 6 again, but this time with the gutter. 1p of gutter, which is, I don't know what that translates to in inches. But if you want to find out what 1p is in inches, right click your rulers and change that to inches. And this one as well. And then go back to layout, create guides. Now it's going to show you in inches. So 1p was actually 0.1667 inches. Anyways, turn on our preview, remove existing. Let's have 6 by 6 again. Click OK. Now we can fit these to the columns, but also keeping in mind that we have gutter to keep our image sort of separated from the text. It'll be more obvious if this actually had a picture in it. So let me go to here again, bring this image, and let's drop it in. Whenever you have a text box, I mean any frame, whether it's a rectangle frame tool frame, or even if you created a rectangle out of just a regular rectangle tool, they kind of do the same thing. The only difference is the frame tool will have an X there. The regular rectangle tool won't have an X, but they can both be used as placeholders. They kind of do the same thing. So I could drop this image inside directly, and it'll just fit inside there, except it's kind of zoomed in, so I'm going to click fill frame proportionally to make that fit better. Maybe slide it up a little bit. Right, so you get a better idea like this, and then if I want to see this without the pesky guidelines, we can go view, screen mode, preview, and get a nice preview of what that would look like. Right, so again, if I didn't
Can I
have,
can I just press the W key?
yeah, it's a shortcut. So W is a shortcut to go from preview mode to, I think, the last view that you had. I don't know if it's switches specifically from preview to this normal mode, or if it's gonna switch from your last two views. I guess it's, yeah, normal. It just switches between normal and preview. Um, yeah, you could also change the view from this button here. Actually, the shortcut is there. Preview W switches from this to this. Normal, preview. If this was set to presentation or bleed, it still switches back to preview mode. Okay. Yeah, so let me switch back to normal view. So that's the importance of the gutter. That's why you want a gutter, just to have space between different elements. You don't want to, if you had zero gutter and you're trying to follow the guidelines, then it's going to look like this. Let's go back to create guides, remove existing guides, put 6x6 again, this time zero gutter. Right, now if I wanted to follow the guides, this would be here, this would be down to here, this would fit here. So there would be no space between them. And you would have to, like, I don't know, eyeball it, like figure out how much space you want to add yourself. Then that defeats the whole purpose of the guidelines when you do it that way. And then here's what that looks like. It looks terrible because there's no gutter, everything's touching.
Question, David. You can
Yeah,
actually set up this one using the column. The column options, there's a lot of,
yeah,
if you want to split these two texts.
yeah. For the text boxes, yeah, you can do that too. But
Yeah.
sometimes you want to have like a separate text box. Maybe this one
Okay.
is like a, I don't know, like a pull quote or something. Let's fill it with placeholder text. Maybe here you have just like a quote or something, or just a different formatted text. Then you would want to use the guides for that. But if it's all part of the same, you're just trying to create three equal paragraphs, then yeah, you could just create a single box and divide it into however
Two.
many columns you need.
Yeah.
Right, let's go back to preview mode. Um, so yeah, that's the importance of the gutters. Okay.
Yeah.
What else? Okay, so layers, pages, links. Any questions on these three panels? Okay, next we have like the stroke panel. This is one of the panels that you get by default with advanced stroke, swatches, gradient. So stroke is like it's the outline of your content box. So it doesn't matter if it's text box or an image box or just a shape. All these boxes can have a stroke set to them. Right now it's 0, but increase that. You can see a black stroke around there. We can change the type of stroke to these different types, dashed or dotted or any of these other styles. Same with an image. You can increase the stroke on that one. You can change the color on the stroke as well from your stroke color. You could do it from here or from here. If you do it from here though, you have to double click on it and then you could choose a custom color, or you can go to your swatches and then from your swatches, depending on which one you have selected, the fill or the stroke, you'll be able to change using a swatch. A swatch is just like a saved color. So normally when you're designing like a something like this, you don't want to have too many different colors. Sometimes, if you're branding, you're gonna have your brand colors. You're gonna want to save swatches of the colors that you want to use and not just use random colors everywhere. But if I click on stroke and then I click one of these, we can see I can switch to those colors and can also change the style of the stroke. You can do it on, again, a shape. Could be a circle. You can also do it on text boxes. Right, so that's your stroke. And the fill will also apply. So remember when you add an image in a box, you could fit the content proportionally, which means some of the box will be left empty just so you could see the entire image. Then you'll be able to see like the background and the stroke. Again, double clicking will fit the box to the image, or clicking on fit frame to content. Okay, so we go to preview mode. And let me hide my guides, or let me clear my guides. I don't want to see them. So view, guides, grids and guides. We can delete all guides. I'll just delete them. Um, so normally there's supposed to be a donut here. I'm not seeing the donut shape. When you select a box like this one, a little donut appears in the middle. You can see when I move my mouse to the middle, changes to a hand. That's where the donut is. Little donut circle shape here. Um, Avoid clicking on that when you're trying to move a box. Like this, I can move it nicely, just clicking here, or clicking here, or here, or on the sides or the corners. You click the middle, you're gonna move the picture within the box. That might be annoying. I'm not sure why it's not showing. It's probably one of the extras. No, grids and guides. I'm not sure why it doesn't show the donut. It's normally there. I don't know. Maybe it's a new version of InDesign. They don't show it anymore.
No, it should show. I know what you mean.
You see it?
No, no, no. When I try to place a picture It shows there. That's their circle thing.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm not seeing it.
Yeah.
Um, okay, moving on. So swatches are your predefined colors. These are just the normal swatches you get when you create a new document. But if you open another one, like maybe these starter files that I downloaded, they might have different swatch colors. I think these are a little bit different than what you start with. But what you might notice consistently is there will be a few that don't look like colors. There's paper and black and registration. So paper just means um, when this prints, there won't be any ink printed in that spot that you applied paper to. So if the paper is white, it'll be white, but if the paper is a different color, you might be printing on colored paper, then it's going to be whatever color the colored paper is. But you could also specifically set a white swatch if you wanted. To create new swatches, just click this button here, new color swatch, and then you can pick what you want that new color to be. Since I'm working in a print file, it's in CMYK right now, but you can also switch to RGB. CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, black, your printer colors.
Understood.
And then, of course,
David, when do you use registration? Do you use this or no?
um, registration, I think
Yep, versus black. Is that for advanced printing or what?
I forget what registration does. One of them is gonna be pure black, the other one's gonna be like slightly gray. If I don't know if I need to turn off my iSaver
They
mode on my computer.
they both black.
Yeah, it looks like they're both exactly the same.
Yeah.
Oh, so no, registration prints on all plates. Black just prints the black ink. So registration, I guess if you're screen printing, you've got different like color injectors. Uh, one will combine all of the colors to make the black. The other one will just use the pure black.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why when you hover over it says prints on all plates. This one actually gives you 000 for um, everything except the black or the key color. Yeah, so if you do have brand colors you're trying to use, then maybe when you're starting off, you don't have to get rid of the ones that are already there. You could create a new group of colors or swatches, and then I don't know, call it your brand colors, right? And then fill that with a bunch of swatches for your brand. Maybe we have like a specific um, blue color that we use in our brand. It's probably easier to pick with RGB. Actually, HSB. HSB is the most convenient way to pick it, I think, because you just pick the hue, whatever color you want, how strong you want the color, and how bright you want it. Kind of easiest way to pick a color, I think. So, like, how blue do I want it? More towards purple or more towards green? How strong do I want the blue? How bright do I want it? Say that's our specific blue color. Um, and this CC libraries is gonna show you just assets that you've recently worked with. It's just, when did I create this? Anyways, um, Yeah, it's just recent assets that I've created maybe in Adobe Illustrator or something. It just auto saves it here. But I don't really use it, so I might go ahead and close that and get rid of it. Back to swatches. We have our brand colors with one color so far. Could add another one. Just duplicate it like that and then go in and modify it. Right, so say that's my brand colors. Okay, now I have it there easily. So if I'm creating some graphics and maybe I'm putting some, I don't know, I'm gonna have some text here, and I'm gonna fill it with placeholder text. Right, maybe my first letter, I'm gonna use like a drop cap. Drop caps should be under, let's see, window, maybe it's under character. Oh, it should be under paragraph. That's like a paragraph style. So type in tables, paragraph. Let's say, where's the drop cap? There it is. So drop cap, let's say we want like a 3-line drop cap. Right, this A. Maybe we want that to be our brand, blue color or something. And maybe we have some other graphics. Maybe we have just like a random bar up here or something. We can easily pick our colors there. Let me go into preview mode for this so I could get rid of the stroke on there. And right now when I click one of these, it's changing the stroke color. I don't want that. That's because when I select it, it's like the stroke is in the foreground here. Also here, you want to make sure your fill color is selected, not the stroke. Then you can switch to that. Alright, so I don't know. Using your brand colors throughout the page. It's nice to have it preset with the swatches. What else should we look at? Gradient. We're not going to use gradients much, but if you wanted a gradient, there's the gradient panel. You just create a box, click the gradient, creates a gradient. This is the default black and white gradient, but if you want to change the colors, just double click. Actually, double clicking is not doing anything. We need to okay, so in Illustrator, you could double click this. Photoshop, you double click it, lets you pick a color. Here, we can't double click on it. So we have to go to our swatches. And from our swatches, maybe drag a color into here. There we go. And pull that one out. So you could drag a swatch into your gradient to make it those colors. And this just drags like, pretty, what do you call it? Self-explanatory that that does. If you want to change the direction of the gradient, there's an angle option here. You could put whatever number of degrees. You could reverse it from here. You could change it to a radial gradient, or you could use the gradient tool, gradient swatch tool. There's a gradient feather tool, but you want to use the gradient swatch tool. You can change the direction of that. Gradient feather tool lets you create like a feather effect. So if you want it to blend or fade out, you could use the gradient feather tool. Right, so now we have the effects. Effects are if you have to click on effects over here, and we could do drop shadows, inner shadows. Some of the stuff you'll see in like Photoshop. Want to add a drop shadow? That could be an effect. You can apply it to the text. You could apply it to the text box. So the object, stroke, or fill. So you could actually apply it to the outline as well if you had one. So if I set this to object and click OK, what do we have selected? Nothing. Gotta have something selected. Add a drop shadow. You can see it added it to the actual text. If I go back to the effects, click on the drop shadow, we see it's applied to object. Since there's no fill on the object, there's no stroke on the object, it's just going to the text. But if I did have a fill on this, maybe white, then you'd see it only applies to the box. Right, let me make that different color so it's more obvious. Oops, not that color. Right, so you can apply it to the text, the box, or you can apply it to the stroke. Oh, you could also apply it to multiple. So it's still applied to object, it's still applied to fill, and it's also applied to stroke right now, but we're not seeing it on the stroke because there is no stroke unless I add it, then you can see it. But if I want to remove the one on the text, we can go to back to the effects. Make sure when we select object, we turn that off. We switch to fill and text. Make sure they're also off. So it's only applied to the stroke. Right, so and drop shadow is just one of the effects. You have transparency, inner shadow, inner glow, feather, some other stuff. Here's a glow, for example. Anyways, don't go crazy with the styles. Maybe a few drop shadows here and there sometimes, like really subtle ones, but I wouldn't add too many crazy effects to stuff. Okay, and then that brings us to the styles. Styles are styles that you can save on an object. So let's say you're going to reuse the same font color, and I don't know, we'll have lessons that will bring better examples of this. Let me see if some of these starter files will be useful for it. Let me open something else. Let's open tour, the first one. Okay, so like for example, in this document here, we have, we have some text and images, but some of the text boxes, they have like a title, little graphic on top of it. We go down to the next page, same thing, little title, the graphic. And maybe we have like, I don't know, 100 pages, and we decide we don't want the titles here to be this font and this color. Maybe we wanted it to be, I don't know, this color, and we wanted it to be not railway, but maybe a different font, like whatever this is, right? And maybe want to increase the size of that. I think this document that I downloaded already has a style applied, You can see here when I open character styles, there's some stuff in here. If I open paragraph styles, there are also some things in here. This is called body heads. There's a little plus sign next to it telling me that one of the heads that this was applied to, I have modified it. See, that one's different. This one should still be the same. Yeah, this one's still the same. But because this was a paragraph style, I can right click and say redefine that style. Now, this style is defined with whatever I've applied here. So it's going to be this font size, this color. If I go back down to the other page, oh, you see it picked up the color, but that's about it. It didn't actually pick up the font. That's probably because, let's see, if we double click on that body heads, we can actually see what is applied to it. If we go to basic character formats, see, font family is applied, font size. So it should have applied it. But there also might be a character style. Black plus. Let's double click black plus. Black plus should just have the color applied to it, nothing else. So going to paragraph styles, again, it does have body heads. It says overrides on it. Alt click to clear, or we could right click and say, I guess we have to just click on it one more time, but it'll apply it. There should be a way to automatically apply it as well. So let's go back to how this was before. Again, we changed the font. Change the font color. Redefine the style. That's what I did last time, so it doesn't actually change it throughout the document. But just simply clicking the text and clicking the object style again will apply the new updated version. But there should be a way to just do all of them at the same time. Okay, unfortunately, maybe there is no way to do it, but you just have to simply click it and click it again. But that's what styles are. You could so that's a paragraph style, applies to a whole paragraph. You could have character styles. You could see here body text, body heads. Like if I select just this word moments here, click body heads, you see it applies the body head style to it, or TOC heads or headings. These are highlighted pink because I don't have the font that they're using. That's why it's pink. Also, if I look here at the font, it's got brackets around it. It says Source Sans Pro with some brackets around it. That's just telling me I don't have that font installed on my computer. But I can always go to type, find and replace font. There'll be a little triangle here. It says missing font available from Adobe Fonts. So I'll just right click on it, or It's telling me to, I could replace it, but I don't want to replace it. I just want to download that font. So it says available. I should be able to quickly change it. But maybe I just need to, when I first open the document, it asks me if I want to download the fonts that are missing. Maybe I have to do it from there. Or let's go to window, type in tables, character. Make sure we have our character panel. And then from here we can choose our font. It's called, what was it called? Source Sans Pro. So if we click here, Source Sans Pro, we could click Find More and then search for Source Sans Pro. Let me just type the whole thing, Source Sans Pro. And then we can click this little download button here to activate it. This is just Source Sans Pro. There's no black or bold next to it. Source Sans Pro. But I guess we have to. Oh, it's extra light. So Source Sans Pro extra light. Click the activate button. Click OK, and we can see. Did it activate? Why is it not activating? I have to activate all of them. You can also do it from the Creative Cloud app. Just go and download the font. But no, when you first open it, it should also just give you the option when it's missing. Like for example, this one, when I open it, it says missing fonts. I can just say activate, and it takes its time sometimes. I don't know why it's not working with the other one, but we could also do enable auto activate so it doesn't ask us every time, but I'll skip it this time. So the ones that were missing here just got activated. Might be the same fonts that were missing from this document. Let's go to view, screen mode, preview, or actually stay in normal view. I don't think any of the missing fonts are being used at the moment. That's why this one doesn't ask me if I want to activate them. But they are defined in the character and paragraph styles. Actually, these are fine. I think I did, whenever I activated it on the other file, it looks like whatever was missing here got activated as well. But if you don't have the font or you don't have Adobe, you're not subscribed and you can't activate them, just replace it. Do a type find and replace font, and then whatever is missing, you can just select it and then replace it with something else. And then you just, select what you want to replace, it with, and then change all, or just do it one by one. Find first and then change it, find next and change it to something else. But change all will just change all of them. So let me double check. Do I now have what was it called? Source Sans Pro. Yeah, it looks like now I have it. Maybe it just took a while to download. Like when I clicked activate, maybe it was still activating. That's why it wasn't updating right away. but it's no longer in brackets. You can see here, I actually have it now. I don't know if you could deactivate it after you've activated. I'm not sure if you can do that. Once it's activated, it's activated. You could probably do it from the Creative Cloud Adobe here. You could do, it's gonna be under Manage Fonts, and you can see all the fonts that I've got activated here. Source Sans Pro is probably here somewhere. There it is. I've activated 3 out of 5 of them, but I can like deactivate them, and I don't have it anymore. So again, it might take closing the file and opening it again to see the updated version. No, it's still there. That's weird. It didn't deactivate right away. I might have to exit the entire InDesign for it to deactivate. Okay. Yeah, so for now, don't worry about the character paragraph styles. We'll do a lesson on those later. Right now, if you're trying to modify your fonts, just use the character panel or the paragraph panel, or you could just use the control panel up here. It'll give you your text options. So you don't really have to have this open. Just highlight your text or select the text box. You should be able to see text options here. Actually, if you select the box with the select tool, you might not see everything. I think there's a button here you can click on to open up the character and paragraph style options. Um, no, I guess not. You have to double click, then it comes up. So now you can see your character styles and your paragraph styles. So the difference between character and paragraph formatting is if I select this and I have the A selected, which represents character formatting, and I change this to, I don't know, Pompier or something. See that one word changed that I had highlighted, not anything else. But if I highlight that and go to paragraph formatting, and from here find my font and choose Pompier. Let me actually pick something else first. And then Pompier. I guess it doesn't matter. If you have the text highlighted, it's still gonna apply just to the text. But if you have the whole text box selected, and you changed the font by, let's say you click the box, switch to the type tool, and then from here you change this to Pompier, then the entire box changes. This one's pink, so it must mean I'm missing the bold version of the font or something. Let's go to character styles or here. Okay, I don't know why it was pink earlier. Maybe I am missing the bold version. Pompier regular I have, but doesn't look like I have the bold version. Okay, so we've covered most of the panels that we need. Again, if I would keep character and paragraph here as well. So go to Window, type and Tables, Character, and drop that in there. And Window, type and Tables, Paragraph. Add that here as well. What else? Another useful one might be. Let's see, we already have layers. What else? Um, I would keep the align options, but then again, these align, pathfinder, transform, they should show up when you need them whenever you have objects selected. Like for example, align is useful if you have, I don't know, 3 boxes, let's say, and you want them lined up on the top or the bottom or evenly spaced apart. They will show up in the control panel. But if you just want to have these available in your panels, you could add them here as well. I don't think you would use the, what's the other one? The Pathfinder, really. That's more of something you'd use in Adobe Illustrator. But Pathfinder lets you like cut shapes out of other shapes. So window, um, object and layout, Pathfinder. This will let you, let's say we have overlapping boxes. You select both of them, you could combine them like that, or cut one out of the other one, or just have the intersection, or combine them together into like one object. Um, but yeah, it's more if you're just creating custom shapes and stuff. That's the Pathfinder. You could keep that there if you want. And it's something I would use in Illustrator, not really in InDesign, because I don't do
The
too
same,
much custom
the
artwork.
same function like the shape builder.
Yeah. Although Illustrator also has a Pathfinder. So yeah, they do the same thing as the shape builder, but there's no shape builder in InDesign.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think these are really what you need: character, paragraph,
Okay.
and then if you want to save it, just click this button here where it says advanced right now because I have advanced selected. But you create a new workspace, put your name. So anytime you want to get back to this, you can just reset and then have it just like this. So this was advanced, reset advanced, and then this is my own custom one with a couple others added. Okay, so let's talk about text a little bit. Actually, we should be using more of these lesson files here. So under getting started, we talked about just basic tour of everything. Talk about saving a document. And again, it's giving me the missing fonts thing. I'll just skip for now. It'll be pink highlighted, but it's okay. I don't want to activate every font I come across. So here we can do file, save, or save as. If you're gonna continue working on this file, just save it as an InDesign file. Pick the location, click save. If you're saving it, you already saved it, but you want to save it with a different name, maybe a different version, do a save as. Because if you already saved it, you click save, it'll just overwrite what you previously saved. So do a save as if you want to create a different version. If you want to package it, do a file package. Again, it creates like a folder for you with all the files and assets that you might need. So you could transfer it to your company's servers or something where other designers can work on it later, not have to like search for the missing images. you can export if it's just done. You just want to export it. Maybe it's a digital file that you're gonna export. Um, so sometimes just a PDF that you might be sending out through email, or maybe you're just exporting it as a PDF so you can chop it up and create a I don't know, like a email template out of it or something. You do an export, and then you can choose PDF interactive if you want an interactive PDF with buttons and stuff. PDFs can have buttons and forms and videos, I think. If it's just going to be a static PDF just for looking at, then PDF print. EPS is a vector format. I think some of the features might still be available that you would get from a PDF, but I don't know. It's not exactly the same. You want to publish it online, you can do an e-publication. It also lets you do HTML. Um, that's gonna be kind of weird. I wouldn't. Let's see what it looks like. If we save this as an HTML, let's say, it's probably gonna warn me that I'm missing a font. Say click OK. This is what it would look like. So it basically created an HTML file out of this. You can see this image is like an image tag in HTML inside a div. But I wouldn't really use that to create HTML files. And then you have share for review. If you're working on something and you need to have it approved by your manager or whatever, click share for review, and then you can give it a name and then create a link that you can share with whoever is approving your work. You see here we have invite only. We could just do public if we want anyone to be able to see it. And then I can here click on just click this button here, copy it, and then let's say I want you guys to review it for me, paste it there in the chat, and then if you click on that, you should be able to see a preview of it, and then you can like leave comments and stuff. Like let's say I don't know, you want this font to be different, then I'll place a pin here. I'll say I don't like this font. Right, and then it'll tell me, okay, LAPC administration says they don't like this font. So then I'll go back to working on it and update it until it's ready. Ramil, did you figure out how to download the materials? I just saw your comment. The materials should be on. Oh, if you're having a hard time downloading these, yeah, there's no download button, is there? When you click the three dots here and then click open in a new window, then it shows you the download button. I don't know why you have to do that, but that's what I usually do. Just click the three buttons, open a new window, then click download. I don't know if there's another way or why exactly it does that. Oh, zip extractor maybe? No, that looks unnecessary. No, don't do that. Just click the three dots, open a new window, download. But this is something you'll use a lot if you're working with an agency. Small project, you'll probably be working on it 1 to 2 days. Bigger projects you might work on for like a month, and lots of pages. Then you're gonna have all kinds of comments in there. Once you fix whatever issue they had, then you can say resolve, and that's resolved, and they could add their new comments. But a really useful tool for working with other people. I'm not sure if that's on. I don't think it's on the older versions of Adobe InDesign. It will be on the 2220 version for sure. 2019, it's there, I think. Um, Beyond that, I don't know. So I did say I'll give you an assignment because tomorrow is a lab day. Kind of assignment should I give you? Something simple. Just create like a one-page layout with Adobe InDesign. So you're going to choose print for the preset, turn off facing pages. Use margins and or guides. Um, Customize the fonts. Use placeholder. Or I should say, okay to use placeholder text. I want this to be a really simple thing, just to get the hang of InDesign a little bit. Just create a single page layout. Turn off facing pages. Use margins under guides to kind of understand those better. Try changing the font. And it's okay to use placeholder text. At least one image. To place an image, you can do file, place, or drag the image into InDesign. Experiment with the object fitting option. So when you bring an image in, try the different these things that I showed you. So fill frame proportionally, fill content proportionally, fill content to frame. You're probably going to use fill frame proportionally, but you could right click and choose object. Where is it? Fitting. So right click fitting, fill frame proportionally, or click this button. Fitting the image into the frame. That's it. I'm not going to require much else. Just a single page layout. Do you need a theme or something? No, just keep it empty theme. Just something very generic. No theme. Don't spend too much time on this. Just credit or no credit. Okay, so that's all for today. Let me give you guys the sign out, and let me know if you have any questions.
David, the assignment will, do we need to upload it in the classroom,
Oh,
Google
okay, yeah,
Classroom,
that's a good question actually.
or just send you an email or
Um, submit a PDF to Google Classroom. So
David, can you give examples?
for
Like upload an example of the homework.
um, it's really simple. Like I'll just do one right now. Just show me that you
Yeah, or
can.
or is the link that you sent in chat will be the something like that.
No, no, what did I even send you there? No, just export a PDF, but something like this. Okay, so like I said, choose print for the preset. Choose turn off facing pages. Just click create. Use guides and um, margins and guides if you need to. Right now I have just the guides for the edge of the paper, so just the borders. But we can go to create guides and add some columns if we wanted to follow. Let's just say I'm using 3 columns
oh,
by 4 rows.
only if you need to, right? Only if you need those columns. Depends on your layout.
Um, yeah, just because it's the first assignment, but later we'll make it required. But I'm just saying this always helps. Try to always use the columns and guides.
Mm-hmm.
You can
Yes.
start with some frames, placeholder frames for your image. Here's a text frame. I'll fill it with some placeholder text. Divide that into 3 columns. Let's select the box. When you have a text box selected, you should be able to see the column options here. Divide that into 3 columns. If you don't see it, just right click on it, or I think we should see, yeah, right click text frame options. You could choose it from here, or you could go to type or object text frame options, and you could do it from there also. But normally it should be up there. Looks like columns right there. So at least one image. Just go to, for your images, go to, let's create a new thing here. Create material, stock images, free stock images. Go to one of these websites.
Can I use Unsplash?
Yeah, that's gonna be one of them. I was gonna say Pexels, Unsplash, and Pixabay. Grab your images from there, drop them in your text box, your frames. Um, Maybe include a fake title. Now, if I'm gonna have a title, probably just include that. Where'd my box go? Anyways, since I'm using these columns, you might, again, if you're gonna use those actually, then that means the title might take up this entire row here. The new iPhone 20 X2 Plus or something, and increase the font size so it fits in there. Play with alignment. go to your character panel, paragraph panel. Play with some of the options that they give you in there. So under character, you could click all caps. Under paragraph, if you don't want these hyphenations, uncheck hyphenate. But yeah, you get the idea. This didn't fit here, so might need to decrease the font a little bit until it fits. And you can also, in your text frame options, so right click, text frame options, you could align your text to the middle. Let's see, it's going to be, where is it? Align center. That looks better. W to preview. I have a nice picture up there, but that's about it. And then file, export, save it as a PDF, PDF print. It'll be, I think, smaller file size than interactive. Plus, we don't have any interactive features, so no point in doing that. Export as a PDF, then upload it to Google Classroom.
You got it.
Okay. I'll probably just put something here and upload it as an example later. But that's it. So I think the sign out was 255 if I remember correctly. Let me double check. Let me actually post it as well since it's not posted.
Wow. Last year.
Yeah. Okay, so today's sign out is wait, this is 2022. Need the new one. Okay, it's yeah, it's 255. Right, I'm gonna stop recording.